All right, welcome back to the Tell It Like It Is podcast. I have Germinal, and we're continuing our conversation. This is part two. Thank you for sticking around. So far in part one, as always, we're trying to get to the heart of the matter. We're talking about how we can make America better, move forward, talking about some of the issues in America and affecting the world. And we got to the point where we were talking about the role of education and making this better. And we were saying the only thing that we needed now was for the politicians to get out of the way. And previously, leading up to this point, we were saying that um, politicians need to have more skin in the game when they put these ideas out there, these policies out there, because it's been too long. Me personally, I'm very upset because at one point my oldest son, he was in a charter school, and the reason why we went out of our way to get him into charter school was because his local school was not doing well at all. And just so you know the backstory, we lived on the Upper West Side, 113th Street and Broadway in Manhattan. And the school was on 110 and Broadway, so 3 blocks from the house. This was a public school. And, I have had teachers on my podcast in the past, and I love teachers. And I think, like you said, teachers go into it with the best intent. And there's a number of factors involved. The teacher gets overwhelmed, large classroom size, not getting the support they need,
Yeah.
parents being overwhelmed, and it just starts, the whole system begins to break down. And instead of the district, the superintendent, the politicians doing everything they can to fix it, there is a mediocrity standard that has set in. And to me, in the wealthiest country in the world, in the leading democracy in the world, in the greatest country in the world, this is unacceptable. And one of the things you have not touched on is that there's a lot of public schools who push back against charter schools because charter schools make them look bad.
Yeah.
It's
I mean,
Go ahead.
actually, thank you that thank you that you brought it up. Yes, I haven't touched that because to me it sounds obvious. Yes, because as I said, government, local government in charter school, as I said, they publicly so they fund the place, but they don't control the curriculums. They don't control what subjects are going to be taught. Whereas in a government-owned school, they control the funding and all the other resources that they provide to the students. And yes, it makes look traditional government-owned school bad because they're like, okay, you government, you giving money to those charter schools, you don't even know what they're teaching these kids. And us, we're doing bad. And that's what is going on. And this is supported by the teachers union. Teachers union are the one they've been pushing for laws against charter schools to make it really bad. Thomas Sowell wrote a book called Charter Schools and Their Enemies. I don't know if you've read it, but if you haven't, I recommend that you read. It's mind blowing because I used that book to make my research in the book that I recently released, Black America and the Illusion of Political Power. I wrote a chapter about the politics of education, where I even developed a mathematical model to explain how public schools in inner cities are doomed to are making kids fail pretty much. And I used Thomas Sowell's work to support my arguments. And honestly, teachers unions are doing everything they can to undermine charter schools. It's really bad.
During the break, you spoke about your modesty and your desire to gain wealth so that you can make the world a better place. Um, if Germinal Van had $10 billion tomorrow, what would you do to make the world a better place?
One thing I always wanted to do is to buy real estate in low-income communities, renovate all of them, and build schools, build infrastructures, and cooperate with the police there to clean up the street so that we can have investors. Oh yeah, absolutely. Look at what one man can do with his wealth. That's the thing, and that's what people don't understand. I'm telling you, Alex, even with 50 million,
Let
you
me
can
ask you, let
really
me ask you
uplift
this
people.
honest question now.
Yeah,
Why do you think the billionaires who are giving and donating funds all over the place, why do you think they're not doing that?
to like low income communities.
Right.
Honestly, I don't know. Maybe it doesn't cross their mind.
You think that, do you,
I generally don't know because there are many reasons that I'm totally ignorant of. Maybe it doesn't even cross their mind. Maybe they're not interested. Maybe they know and they're not interested. It depends. But for instance, like when it comes to a man like Jay-Z, he should do that. I don't expect a white billionaire to do that. That's not his role. Like I didn't there we're black, he's white, we're not the same race. That is not his role. If you want to do it, thank you. I'm not gonna say no. But Jay-Z, first of all, you start no, seriously. First of all, I know I love his music, but first of all, you start selling crack cocaine. He even talk about it in his song You Don't Know.
sure.
Right? You start selling crack cocaine. What example are you selling to kids there? You're selling crack cocaine. You're showing them that you have to be a drug dealer in order to make it. That's not life. I'm sorry. And then you get into rap. Sure, rap at first are the type of Tupac people were talking about the issues of society. Now rap is about smashing girls and doing all kind of nasty stuff. You're not teaching kids how to be better people. Then you become wealthy, you start making your millions, and you start having partnership with big corporations. Then you married one of the most beautiful women on the planet, sure. So now you're a powerhouse and you've reached the $1 billion status. But what have you done to improve south side of Chicago? What have you done to improve Brooklyn? What have you done in the Bronx? What have you done to improve Anacostia? And what have you done to improve south side Los Angeles? You have all this money. You living in your nice apartment in on Fifth Street, Manhattan, not far from Trump Tower. You don't mingle with anybody. You drinking your champagne, but there are people at the bottom who are suffering, and they're still listening to your music. And that's why it breaks my heart, Alexi. Like seriously, it breaks my heart when I see Black America worshiping those rappers. It breaks my heart because they're not preaching the right thing for them. When you love someone, you want them to be better. You basically put the resources to help them. You know what is the cure to poverty? It's production. Production is the cure to poverty. Poverty is simply the absence of income.
Right.
Because the minute you have an income, I always give this analogy. The minute you have an income, you're no longer poor. You're not rich. Don't get me wrong. You're not rich, but you're not poor because you receive a revenue.
Right.
Now poverty becomes relative. Why? Because poverty is now becomes based on where you live. Let me give you an example. If you make 100K, $100,000 is a lot of money in America, all right? But if you make $100,000 and you live in the Bay Area, in San Francisco, Stanford University, so where all the tech industries are, you're poor, you're broke. Why? Because the living standard there is 400 to $500,000. But if you take those same 100K that you make a year and you live in Mississippi, you can buy a mansion with that. So you see that it becomes relative.
Right.
So when you have people like Diddy, Jay-Z, doing all this black power, blah, blah, but what are you doing for the community? Dr. Umar, at least, is building a school in Delaware.
Right.
Dr. Umar is a radical,
Yeah.
but I respect the man for that. No, seriously, he's genuinely doing something for black people.
Yeah.
He's doing something for black people. But Jay-Z, all these guys, they use rap because in rap, they don't say anything that will make
Lift.
people's life, yeah, that will lift people. It doesn't. They're talking about the wrong things that will actually send you to jail.
Right.
raping women, I don't know, stealing, shooting people on the street. What is that?
I definitely have an issue with that. If you know, if you pay attention, so so my premise behind this podcast is I've had a lot of intelligent conversations with people and we've come to good conclusions, but I think we need more voices on record. You know, I listen to rap music. I've listened to the music. There's a lot of messages there that I have an issue with, right? And if you experience something growing up and now you're making music and now you know better, you shouldn't you shouldn't just glamorize the things that you no longer do. Your music should also sound like that stuff's not good. And it's still having an impact on poor people because there's a lot of people who are stuck and they see the only way out as selling drugs. You know, there's no way I'm going to open a business, but I can sell drugs. There's
And the
no way.
problem is that, and the issue with selling drugs is that you're increasing your likelihood to go to jail.
They're willing to risk it. So there's a lot of people out there who are hopeless, and you know that's the voice of the hopeless. So at the same time, you know, I don't want to villainize those people who feel stuck and recognize who identify with that music. Um, I want to have conversations and put ideas out there and do actions out there that's going to help them move forward.
Yeah, I don't blame them at all either. Who I'm blaming are the rappers themselves who
No,
are,
no, I hear you. We got
yeah.
that. So if you said to me, Alexi, what do you want to do to make this better? You know, you're basically saying when I get to a better place, I'm going to do something to help. And I think the key is that the people in those situations need to network and help themselves to get out of that situation. Because like I said, I know, you know, a mother of three kids with no education, she doesn't know, there's no voucher for her to send her kid to a better school. She has no choice but to send her kid to this failing school. The kid goes to school, he's hearing all the curse words, all his friends are doing drugs, he's seeing all of these things. He has to walk through a crack infested neighborhood. He hears that music. The TV that he's seeing is not uplifting. So his mind is kind of stuck in this situation.
Yeah, because his environment is affecting him.
Right. And his parents see no way out. And what if you said to me, Alexi, what do you want to do about that? I want to help those people organize and build. I think what you said about safety is very important because I don't feel safe in the hood. You know,
No.
I'm the type of person I am. I want to go into communities and say, all right, sign up here. We're gonna start this fund to build a trade program. We're gonna buy that rundown building and turn it into a daycare. We're gonna do these things and try to fix, but I don't even feel safe walking in there with my pamphlet, with my little clipboard
Yeah.
saying, let's do this.
Yeah, because no, and you're right, because even like in broad daylight, the shootings going on. I remember there was I watched an interview. It was the day after Chauvin was sentenced, like maybe not sentenced, but when he was, they said, okay, you're going to jail in Minneapolis in broad daylight. Pop, 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 pop. The journalist was like, everybody started running as if it was a war zone,
Right.
as if we were in Liberia and people were like, I was shocked. Usually you think that it's at night because usually
Right.
at night, like after 5 or 6 o'clock, you don't want to be there because
Right.
it's the jungle. There, like it's seriously, it's the jungle because you can get jumped at any time. How can you live a life where every time your heart is racing because anything can happen to you at any second? Every time you have to walk around with a gun. This is not life. It's sad. It's really sad. And unfortunately, those people will never have respect because we don't respect poor people. Unfortunately, that's what it is. There's a reason why, so sorry, it wasn't to cut you off, but there's a reason why you rarely see Indians or Asians being shot by the cops. Because cops don't respect us. Poor people are not respected. At least until we are able to rise to a status of middle class as a community, which is what the Hispanic community is. Until we're able to rise to that, everyone will step on us, no matter where we are on the planet. Look at Black Brazilians. Their condition is even worse. Look at Black people in Europe. It's the same thing. Black people in Asia, oh my God. It's the same thing. Everywhere we are on the planet, man, we're suffering because we are at the bottom of the income bracket. Until you're poor, because we live in a world where the survival instinct is great. Great in the sense that until you have resources, everyone will step on you. That is the reason why Black people are suffering, not just in America, but anywhere they are on this planet as a community.
You're based in Chicago.
Yes.
What's your experience with Obama? Because Obama's from Chicago.
So I moved to Chicago in 2018. So it's pretty recent. So I wasn't, and I came to the US in 2010. So I wasn't in the US when Obama was actually active in the community and stuff like that. But to answer your question, big disappointment. Big disappointment because once again, the Obama phenomena is exactly our problem. The illusion of political power. This young, bright, handsome guy coming and charismatic, talking, acting as he's going to come and save Black people. He's been in power for 2 terms, 8 years. Our condition has not significantly improved. It did not. Black people thought that Obama will be the president of Black people. Obama said, no, I'm the president of America. It tells you everything you need to know. He said, I'm the president of America. I'm not the president of Black people. Again, what does he mean? It means that he used his skin color as an asset to get the votes because he knows that this is stuff that immediately trick Black people because Black people are emotional. Unfortunately, we are not rational as a community. We're not rational. Like white people are very rational. You see, I'm going to tell you here, I'm going to give you a theory that you probably never thought of. White people individually are weak. You will see they cry about stupid stuff. Because they always have everything they want in life, pretty much. I mean, they had a struggle too. I'm not ignoring that. But, compared to us, they always have an advantage. So you see them crying over little stuff. But as a community, when they do things, they're extremely rational about what they do. Look at what they do with colonization. They went as, okay, we're going to look at the split Africa. As a people, they're extremely unite. Black people, on the contrary, individually, they're strong. We're very resilient people. But collectively, we become super emotional. We don't make rational decisions. Black people can endure anything on this planet. We are the most resilient people on the planet. When we see other people from other communities crying over stuff, you're like, are you serious, man? You're crying over this? Because to us, this is normal. Right. Because we've been oppressed our entire, I would not say almost our entire existence.
Yeah.
So to us, like, what's it?
For a millennium.
Yeah, exactly. But when we're together, we're not united. And that is even the reason why slavery happened to Black people. Like interracial slavery, like Black and white, because slavery has happened for a very long time, but the interracial slavery has happened because we were not united. Because here's the thing, white people came from Europe to Africa, right? They were so racist that they could not even go into the inland. They stopped at the coast, at the shore. And the people that were brought from the inland to the shore to be taken to America, who brought them?
Africans.
Exactly. But if you notice, you will never see a European or white person selling his white brother to another community. Yes, and the funny thing is that Europeans are the ones who have been at war the most among all the people on this planet. Europe is known for war. They had two world wars just by themselves. They brought the war to two world wars. But you never see a European selling his European brother to a Chinese, to a Japanese. Have you seen that? I don't think so. But you see an African selling his brother to a white guy.
Um, I'm still trying to conceptualize
Mhm.
some of the complexities here. You know, we have to say on one hand, we know that Africans in America, we have had a large struggle, and for no one can dispute that African Americans has been treated unfairly. No one
Yeah, that's a fact.
no one can dispute that we have had to fight not for equality, but to be seen as a citizen. And that fight for citizenship is not over. Now, I personally, I'm trying to understand, you know, the way that capitalism affects its constituents, right? And I'm trying to understand this thing, and the thing is that capitalism is not about taking care of the individual. Capitalism is about um, I know you like to use free markets. So I have no issue with free markets. You know, free markets in its simplicity is a beautiful thing. One of the problems is that, you know, leading up to the 2008 economic crash was that um, the bankers lobbied the political system to deregulate banking. And that deregulation led to all of the financial problems that we had in 2008. As a pure, as a pure, as a pure capitalist, those banks should have failed, but they got bailed out.
Mhm.
Do you think them getting bailed out was the right thing?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Because what you just described is not capitalism, is state capitalism. It's not free market. I mean, it's state capitalism. And state capitalism is where corporations are favored over small businesses. So owners of corporations use politics as a means to undermine competition so that the little guy cannot compete with them. And they buy politicians, what we call log rolling. They buy politicians so that say, okay, pass this law so that you're going to deregulate this industry. I can have the monopoly in this. And in exchange, I make sure that you get elected for the next 2 or 3 terms.
And I'll give you some money in an offshore account.
Absolutely. To the Cayman Islands. So I absolutely agree with you. I do not support state capitalism. What we have in America today is what we call state capitalism. It is not free market. Because in the free market, the small guy has the same chance as the big guy. In the free market, it is almost impossible to have monopoly. It is hard because it's about competition, and competition is what people always want to buy at the lowest price.
Right.
Because if you come in the market, you offer the same product, the same service than the other guy, and you lower your price, people will come to you than the other guy. But when you're able, because who is able to secure monopolies is the state. by implementing regulations that will say that, okay, and unless you make a certain level of revenues, you can't have the monopoly. So that's what it is. And I totally agree with you. And it's state capitalism that is unfortunately increasing the wage gap between between social classes. It's not, to me, it's not the free market in its pure sense as I wish it could be. Because in a pure free market, unfortunately, I think the pure free market is a theory. But in a pure free market, I believe that people would be better off than in state capitalism, because in state capitalism, government is the one choosing losers and winners. Because, and the crisis we talk about, the 2008 crisis, government here picked winners.
Right.
They, and who bailed? Obama.
Right.
Obama is the one who signed the bill. Instead of helping out small businesses in the community, he sided with the big banks.
So America is like, America at the same time, people look at GDP and says America's doing well. And I'm looking at what is happening to the small businesses, the community, the government favoring these corporations like Amazon, Apple, Nike, that's growing at this rate while simultaneously the wage gap is increasing, the 1% is growing, and the majority of America is still in a hole. What are we gonna do about that?
That's actually a really good question. And I do not have yet a concrete answer to give you. But what I believe could be done is to facilitate the uh, the elevation of small businesses. Because you see, one of the issues, for instance, with the Biden administration is that his tax plan is not favoring small businesses at all. Small businesses are paying way more taxes. You see, and this is one thing that people who vote Democrats sometimes don't get. Democrats never hide the fact that they want big government. They never hide it. It's just people who think that by having a bigger government, it will improve their life, but it doesn't.
Help the
Because,
small
yeah, because the tax system, you can increase taxes all the way you want. Rich people are not going to pay them. And rich people have the best account. They have access to the best accountants to make sure they don't pay any taxes. So everything will fall on who? On us, once again. So raising taxes is not the way to help us develop as a society or as a community, because it reduces our purchasing power. If your purchasing power is reduced, you cannot create capital.
Let me stop you really quick. You just said raising taxes is not the solution. You said raising taxes is not the solution because the 1%, the wealthy, knows how to get around the tax law.
Oh, absolutely.
So let me challenge that and say we need taxes that you can't get around.
Well, sure, we need taxes that you can get around. And you think that the rich were just going to look at you and say, oh, sure. They will put politicians who will put tax laws that they will be able to get around. And they will still find a way to get around. Because tax law, yeah, go ahead.
So here's the thing, right? Like I said, we're trying to make it plain here, right? There is the wealthy getting wealthier, and we see it. It's every graph from, no one's debating that. The wealthy's getting wealthier. The Microsoft was $1 billion 20 years ago. Now it's $1 trillion, right? So we're not trying to hurt business. We're not trying to hurt productivity, but we're trying to say, give everyone a fighting chance. We're trying to say, let's not have the profits go to the hands of few who are not giving back to infrastructure. We're saying we need to make sure that these profits are supporting society and its infrastructure. That's a real problem here. And we need to make sure what scares me is that, like I said, I'm not an expert. The experts, the real intelligent people, the people at the newspapers, which is owned by the 1%, they're not saying anything. And we really need to be serious about that. Politicians aren't going to all of a sudden begin. At one point, the tax rate was something like 50%. And that's when America was thriving. And now, these big companies like Amazon are paying zero taxes.
Well, Amazon is paying zero taxes because they make sure that their expenses matches their revenue.
Right, but there's all these loopholes, and it's a real problem.
But they're legal. They're legal, and they're using those loopholes legally. I mean, you can't. It sounds unfair, but it's legal, and you can't vex for that because that's what they're doing. They find a way to not pay taxes legally. That's what your business that didn't have any beef yet.
I think I know you're an author, and I respect your authorship, and I think this needs more attention.
And you're right.
People kind of, poor people, when they're sitting around drinking on the weekends, complaining about having to go to work Monday, they get it. And I'm telling you, we understand. These companies, these rich people, they don't care about us. These people, they just take our money, and we're here struggling at the bottom, and we got nothing. And
But see,
do is,
and I told, in fact, what I want here is to support your point, not to challenge it at all. But see, the entity that has the power to improve this is the government. By what? Facilitating access to property. Because the reason why is everything's like this because of state capitalism is that those at the bottom, there are too many regulations enforced on them. That is why. Whereas it's not the same for those at the top. But who has the power to change regulations? It's the government.
right.
Only people in the government have the power. Here's the thing. When people ask me, for instance, why Black people are in this situation, blah, blah, slavery, the real entity to blame in all of that is government. Government had the power to end Jim Crow. Government had the power to do anything. They never did. It's government is to blame. Government has the power to implement laws that will ease, that will facilitate small businesses' ability to thrive. But if you're putting, let's say like a woman who wants to open her beauty shop as an esthetician, now like she has to take a series of exams, like a ton of fees she has to pay just to become an esthetician. All that money she spent just to become an esthetician could have gone into the capital of her business,
right?
And then reinvest in that. You see, so
right.
and all these regulations that are implemented for an esthetician to become one, who implements that? It's the government. So it's government who has to reduce the laws for small businesses. They have to cut taxes for small businesses so that small businesses have to pay lower taxes. Because if they pay lower taxes, what happened? More people are employed. More people are lifted out of poverty. Because there's nothing greater for a poor person than to wake up every morning and go to work. And knows that because he has his dignity. Instead of waking up every morning, going to the liquor store and buy for local and getting drunk all day. No, seriously. Because those guys, they're, as you said, they're hopeless. They don't know where else to look. So all they do is that they're killing themselves at a lower pace until the day comes. But when you make him productive, he feels like a man. I'm waking up in the morning. I am bringing resources. I'm bringing bread to the table. My girl is respecting me. because I'm working. And it doesn't have to be a lawyer or a doctor. No, just even like we're using his hand, working as a construction worker and bringing bread on the table, paying his bills on time at the end of the month. That's a part of a man. But for that to happen, and small businesses are willing to hire anybody.
Right.
But
So
to hire anybody, you have to let small businesses having capital. You can't hire without capital.
what I want to zoom in on here is what you're saying is the role of government and the structures that government provide. That's what's going to shift the economy and get money flowing into small businesses and back into the community. And what I'm saying is we need to also tax these large corporations more. One of the things that I struggle with is understanding how you can have a company which is has all these international profits selling their products in America and then leaving with the profits and not putting those profits back into America. There was a point when you had Ford and Cadillac, which was selling all of the American cars to America, and you could say, I am expecting these companies to A, employ Americans, and then B, use all of those profits to build more businesses, to employ more, and to grow the economy, as opposed to taking the factories out of America and putting them in other countries, taking the profits and building properties somewhere else, investing it somewhere else, and not directly benefiting America. So, as the wealthiest nation with the GDP, we're really putting ourselves in this corner where there's less manual labor jobs. The education system's not going well. The politicians don't care, and big business is taking this money and disappearing, and it's really creating this
Well, you
growing
see,
underclass.
I understand your point, and your point is definitely not wrong. But the real thing responsible for the wage gap is technology, because everything is becoming digitalized today. So the more digital we have, the less physical labor we need. And it's only going to get worse, unfortunately.
Universal basic income.
Okay. Because I have to go soon. So but yeah, universal basic income. Your question is, am I in favor of it?
Well, you're saying that there's less jobs, people who need money, and there's this huge problem that's growing, and it's here.
Mhm,
It's looking
mhm,
at us in the face. Like, it's
mhm,
not, it's not a mystery. If
mhm.
it can't be a welfare state. I don't.
If, if in fact, I am more in favor of a UBI than the welfare state, in fact. But I don't think we can have both at the same time.
Well, I,
If I have to pick between the two, sure, I would pick the UBI, sure, over, I would pick the UBI over the welfare state. In fact, what the welfare state means? The welfare state means that poor people are not responsible enough to take care of themselves. So instead of giving them money and let them decide what they're going to do with that money, we give them kinds. But by giving them kinds, they're constrained by those kinds. They can't do anything else. Oh, you can't, if you make above a certain level, we're taking that away from you and stuff like that. But when you do the UBI, you give them a certain amount, but say, hey, there's no welfare state, man. So you have to be responsible about how you're going to manage that money that we're giving you every month. Fair enough. Fair enough. You have money. Now it's your role and your responsibility to be mindful about how you're going to allocate that money.
um, blockchain and NFTs. Obviously, this is a part of tech, money in the future. Um, some are saying this is going to replace this is going to replace decentralized banks. Um,
So first of all, I
and
don't believe in
that,
Bitcoin.
and how will that affect the Federal Reserve and how we use that?
So first of all, digital currency will be taking place. China already started. It's a matter of time before the US starts its own digital currency. So that's a fact. Like if, as I say, everything is becoming digitalized, money soon will become like that too. So it's a matter of time. I don't believe in Bitcoin, not blockchain, but Bitcoin specifically. This euphoria going around because oh my God, no, Bitcoin is gonna go to zero. It's a matter of time. And I hate Bitcoin. I don't understand it. I don't want to understand it. I don't invest in what I don't understand. I Bitcoin has no intrinsic value. You may say, yeah, but the dollar doesn't have also intrinsic value. It's true, it is paper. But what gives value to the dollar is the trust we put in it and the fact that it is backed by the government.
Right.
Bitcoin is backed by nothing.
Do we do
That's a
we
computer.
do 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 we need the Federal Reserve?
Personally, I'm not in favor of the Federal Reserve. I prefer a decentralized banking system where local banks will can manage their own money and currency. I'm in favor of decentralization because I think the Federal Reserve has failed actually to come to the question who created the Great Depression is the Federal Reserve. The Federal Reserve created the Great Depression. It wasn't capitalism, it was the Federal Reserve because there was not enough money flowing in the economy.
Was
And the
that
reason why there
intentional?
was it?
Was it intentional?
I don't know if it was necessarily intentional, but what I can tell you is that the governors of the Federal Reserve were not able to agree on what policy to implement. And it's the lack of agreement and to act promptly on it that exacerbate the problem. So the money supply fell by 1/3. In fact, Milton Friedman wrote an entire book about it. It's like almost 1,000 pages called The Monetary History of the United States. And he was saying that there was not enough money in the economy that was flowing. And we basically reached a deflationary state. Everything was falling. When prices falling too much, people are letting prices fall until they see how far it's going to fall. But at the same time, pro- productivity stagnates and people are out of jobs. And that's what has happened. So the Federal Reserve hasn't done a really great job, to be perfectly honest with you. I don't think it should be necessarily dismantled, but I think, in my opinion, it will be better if we have a decentralized banking system.
So the Federal Reserve, they control the flow of money.
Yeah,
The Great Depression, they slowed down the flow of money, or they didn't increase it to alleviate what
yeah,
was going on. So it led to the Great Depression.
yeah,
Now, where we're at right now, we have an overproduction of money.
yeah.
So where is that going to lead us?
Well, it could lead us to hyperinflation if we don't tame on the money supply, because no money leads to deflation. It's not good. Too much money leads to hyperinflation. What we need is to be in a stage of crippling inflation where the money supply, where the price increased by 2 to 3%. I don't know, you've probably heard of the 2% rule
Mhm.
of in inflation, in the economics of inflation, where like it's good, it's healthy when prices increase once in a while, you know, so like by 2%, something like that. But when prices increase too fast and too much, that's what is going on. We have an overproduction, prices are increasing too much. It's going to slow economic growth. It's going to slow economic growth. And when prices decrease too much too, it's slow economic growth too. So we need the just middle. We need prices to be stable at a level of 2 to 3%.
What what I'm trying to get at here is all of the complicated economic things that the beautician may not be thinking about, the average person may
Yeah,
not be thinking about, but these things are affecting our daily lives,
yeah,
and we're voting for presidents and people, and we're not sure what we're voting for. We're not sure what they're doing. We know that we're not happy. We know the income gap is growing and we're struggling. And there's been this normalization of the people at the bottom, and it's their problem. They need to pull themselves up. And we're not, we don't have a clear path forward. And what I want to use my platform for is to help everyone understand what we need and what the problems are, how we can get a clear path forward so that it can influence the way we vote, so it can influence the way you act in your community and the way we solidify our actions as a community, and not just vote. You're listening to Fox, so you vote this way. I'm listening to NPR, so we need clarity and someone who's making it plain for us, and we need that conversation. So with that, I thank you for joining me today, and I really hope that I can have more conversations with you. And it's very serious. It scares me that I have to get involved and get on a platform to try to help America. And I think when we get to that point, something's off. Mainstream journalists, mainstream economists, they need to have their hands free so they can actually fix this, and not have we look bad on the international stage. I don't want to, I don't even want to say anything publicly. And I talk to so many people who are like, I'm afraid to be on the podcast. I don't want to say anything. Like, we're afraid to speak out on how to make this place better. It's just, it's at the same time we're free, but at the same time we're allowing all of these things to happen and our hands are tied.
Yeah.
Any closing remarks?
Wait, what's it?
Any closing remarks?
Oh, well, all I can say first of all is thank you, Alexi, for having me on the platform. Honestly, it's an honor to speak directly to you, but also through you to the community. What I want to say is that we should encourage Black people to learn how to code, because coding is the new alphabet. And today we have to say, most people have computers. Most people have computers, even people who live in the project have computers. So they should take the time to train themselves to learn how to code. Because the ability to code immediately gives you a competitive advantage over anybody else. Because people who learn how to code can build websites. I have a friend who she studied politics and something like that, and she did a boot camp, a coding boot camp. And now she's going to open her business for the community to build websites for them, for like small businesses, like restaurants or barbers and stuff like that. And this is something very lucrative. And this is something people can do. To learn how to code, you don't need to be a genius. There are plenty of videos on YouTube. It's important for people to learn how to collect information and collect information for free. YouTube is the greatest platform on the planet right now to have access to information.
I love YouTube.
But most importantly, I want people to understand this. The brain is the most powerful asset a human being has. But everything depends on what you expose your brain to. If you go on YouTube and you spend the time watching things that bring no value to your life, you're going to be dumber. Intelligence increase. No, seriously, intelligence is not something static. It evolves, it increases. Your intelligence increase with every time you engage in intellectual activities. Every time you watch something informative, something educational, anything that stimulates your brain, it increases your intelligence. I trained myself in economics. I don't have a degree in economics at all. I trained myself in economics, I trained myself in mathematics, I trained myself in statistics. Because I was watching videos about how to run regressions, how to do this and that. And today, I can speak in a comfortable way about economics and the economy overall. So it's important, and this is something that Black people have opportunities to. No one is preventing them here to go on YouTube and watch those things. They have to want it. Right. So that's what I'm saying. This, no one can take it away from you. This is your greatest asset because everything we realize on earth starts from the mind. It's from the mind that we conceptualize and bring it out to life. And no one can get into your head. Your skills, your talent, everything is in here. So people have to use their brain wisely. You may not need to have a formal education, but your curiosity, you have to orientate your curiosity in a way that it will bring value to you and to your surroundings and to your community as a whole. And that's what you're doing with your podcast. As you said yourself, you're not an expert, and you don't have to be an expert to talk about the stuff that matters to all of us. And you're using your podcast as a platform to bring value to your surroundings and to the community as a whole too. Right. And that's what you're doing. So that's what people should do. Educate yourself. If you go to a government-owned school that is messed up, and of course that's where the problem is also your environment, everything, people that are that who are influencing you, but have the curiosity to train yourself in a skill that you can use, because skills is what will help you move forward. When you're able to learn how to code, it's game over. And I encourage every single Black person, as I say, you don't need to have a degree in mathematics, you don't need to have it, but learn how to code. Take tutorials on YouTube, Python. They have like 6-hour tutorials. Oh yeah, I mean, you don't have to sit for 6 hours, but you can sit like an hour, take a break, and and watch the video at your own pace. But the point is that this is stuff you can do on your own. This is stuff you can do to have an edge, right? And anybody can do that. YouTube is free. You don't have to pay any fee.
Yeah.
So everything depends on, and I strongly encourage you to take your kids toward that direction. I see, like, I don't know how old they are. I think they're in high school, I believe. If they are, insist on the fact that they should learn how to code. It's a matter of time before paper will not even exist anymore. If you notice, everything that we see on the computer used to be an object.
Right.
And now everything, calendars, everything now is into a computer. And all of that are done through code. Most of those billionaires that you decry, they're all billionaires. Why? Because they learn how to code. Look at Bill Gates, for instance. Bill Gates learned how to code at a time where computers were not even popular yet. Right. That's the strength of Bill Gates. He learned how to code in the late 1970s, early 1980s. He was thinking 20, 30 years ahead. That's why he's where he is today. I mean, partially, but you see what I mean.
Coding is the infrastructure for computers. Computers is going to be the infrastructure for everything in the world. If you have the skill of coding, you're going to be indispensable in the future.
Absolutely. The same way learning how to use your hand, the same way how to be a plumber was in the indispensable skill in the 70s. I mean, this skill will still be indispensable. You always need plumber, trust me.
Right.
You always do need plumber. But coding, yes, is becoming the new thing. And anybody can code. Anybody can code.
No, I appreciate the emphasis. A lot of people are looking to make money, looking for the future. And, I think a lot of people they're afraid to just go on YouTube and do it by themselves, but they will go to a boot camp if you tell them this boot camp is going to lead to this job, this business, this kind of thing. So I do think it's important, and we have we have to really get serious about it.
Oh yeah, absolutely. There's even a video that you should watch on YouTube. It's by Code Pioneer. So is that, I'm sure, like, I don't know if you listen to those lofi music, like basically they go 24/7. You do work and it's like beats going on YouTube 24/7. So there's a guy, his name is Code Pioneer. He's talking about his journey, how he became a software engineer by training himself. He used to work in construction. He lives in the south side of Chicago. I mean, not anymore because now he's making money. But the point is that he trained himself.
Right.
He trained himself how to code.
Okay.
his story is fascinating. Yeah, you type code pioneer, you will see.
I'll look it up. Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
definitely. Like his story is fascinating. I was like, wow. He was talking about he used to live in the south side of Chicago. He trained himself to learn how to code. Self-education is the best way, man. But people have to be curious. They need to want to learn something new.
And
Otherwise,
I'm
they won't
also
be able
very
to.
proud of your journey. You know, you came here in a short period of time. You got on, you know, you got into school, you got your education, you're doing self-learning, you're writing your books, and I'm also proud of your self-promotion. So you're doing everything, all the right steps, and I'm really excited to see where you go and to continue to collaborate with you, you know, to see if we can build a better tomorrow.
Definitely, definitely. Thank you very much, man.
And your books are available on Amazon. They can
Yeah,
find you on Instagram.
yeah.
And
They
we'll,
can even subscribe to my website, germinalgvan.com.
we will continue to have the conversation and build connection. Really
Definitely.
appreciate your time. Thank you for joining me today.
Thank you, man. Appreciate
All
it.
right. Thank
Bye bye.
you and stay safe.
Thank you, man. Appreciate it. Have a good day.